3.5 years ago, I purchased my first investment property with my VA loan. Fast forward to today, and I have a portfolio that's worth over $2 million. Hey everyone, it's Casey McKeown in Dallas, back again today with another video. Today I'm going to go over my investment portfolio and really break down the nitty-gritty numbers of every single property that I've purchased over the last 3.5 years. In June of 2017, I moved officially to Dallas and actually took an opportunity with a bunch of roommates to live downtown and rent just a room month by month. The intent was to actually purchase an investment property after I had kind of failed to purchase 3 or 4 in San Antonio prior to moving, and it was probably about 3 to 4 weeks after moving to Dallas and an opportunity actually fell into my lap. I was actually on Facebook trying to network with other agents locally, and one opportunity popped up, and it wasn't even on the MLS yet. It was a duplex for $285,000. At the time, both sides were renting out for about $1,300 or $1,400, so it was close to a 1% rule. And having just got licensed, I was able to negotiate and really give the other agent my part of my commission in order to steal the deal, because it was in a situation where I was probably competing with 5 to 6 other people without it even having hit the market yet. About a month later, I was able to close on my first property, having lived in Dallas only for a month or two. And I'm going to break you down just the numbers that I was able to obtain and where the numbers are now on this particular property. So once again, I purchased this property for $285,000. When I moved in, initially I rented 2 bedrooms out for $600 a piece. So on my side of the duplex, I was able to pull in $1,200. And on the other side, I was able to negotiate rent to be $1,400. So upon move-in, I was pulling in about $2,600 a month on a $285,000 purchase. When I purchased this property, it was with my VA loan. At the time, I obtained a 3.75% interest rate. At the time as well, my mortgage was about $1,750. So again, mortgage was $1,750 and I was pulling in $2,600 a month. So I was really able to cash flow above my mortgage and live rent-free. The current numbers on this duplex now are about $1,900 a month for my mortgage. The taxes unfortunately went up a little bit, but with the taxes actually going up, the value in the house has also gone up. So at $1,900 a month, I pull in now about $1,600 aside, for a total of $3,200 a month in gross rent. The biggest perk to this duplex was I actually got it at a very good time. Again, I purchased it for $285,000. Currently, the pay down is about $272,000. However, that particular duplex, if I were to put it on the market right now, would sell for well over $400,000. So I've gotten about $140,000, $150,000 in appreciation, as well as cash flow over the last 3 to 3.5 years. Fast forward 5 or 6 months, I was actually given an opportunity to move from the duplex. I was living in one side to a traditional single family. This single family was closer to work. It was also a little bit better for my dog, as well as having a garage. Now this particular property I purchased for $218,000. Again, it was a traditional single family home with a little bit of an unconventional grant program that they had at the time. It was a 2% grant, so I was only required to put 1% down on $218,000, is about $2,100. I also got my closing costs covered and then got commission paid on the back end. So at the end of the day, I actually was paid to purchase my second home. But the good side of this was it had been owned by the same couple for 30 to 35 years. So they had taken care of all of the large expenses. We're talking the roof, the foundation, electrical, plumbing. Really all I had to do was update it because it hadn't been updated probably in the last 15 to 20 years. Throughout the 2 years of living at that property, I was able to use my real estate commissions from being a real estate agent to put that towards remodeling the entire house. It wound up costing me about $30,000. It was my first time remodeling, also going through contractors, and I did have a hiccup in the middle of it in terms of trusting someone with money. However, at the end of the day, I was total all in on the house for close to $250,000. This is a good example when you do hire people to do work to make sure that they're going to do great work. Also, I would make sure that you don't pay upfront. You can definitely put a deposit down for materials, but in terms of labor, I would make sure that you negotiate and have labor be paid after the work's been done. So the final numbers on this property are a purchase price of $218,000, remodeled cost of $30,000 for a total all-in cost of $248,000. I have since in the last 2.5 years paid that down to about $205,000. My total loan payoff right now is $205,000. And the ARV currently, if I were to sell it, which I'm planning to this summer, would be $305,000. So the total equity in this house right now is about $100,000. I'm assuming probably taking a little bit above that when it comes to selling in the summer, and I'm going to apply that to my next purchase. Now moving on to my third property. This was a purchase using my VA loan to purchase a fourplex. I actually have an entire video breaking down that fourplex. Make sure to check that out if you have not. Now, in terms of the numbers on this particular property, I was moving into one unit and the other three were already leased out. The total gross rent from the property when I purchased it was about $2,550 a month, or about $850 per unit. I've since been able to increase those close to $1,000, including the unit that I lived in. Total gross rent, hopefully here shortly, will be close to $4,000. Now I do pay $1,300 a month for my mortgage here, but if you were to include taxes and insurance into the mortgage, it'd be close to $2,000 a month. But pulling in $4,000 a month on a $2,000 mortgage is a pretty great return. One lesson I learned here is, unfortunately, there is a VA loan entitlement cap, meaning that I have a total locally here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of about $510,000 to use for my VA loan, or total if I have multiple VA loans. Well, I purchased one property for $285,000 and I purchased this one for $370,000. Therefore, $370,000 plus $285,000 is well over the $510,000 loan limit. The downside of going over that limit, whether it be with one property or multiple properties with your VA loan, is you're going to have to put 25% down. Now that 25% down of going over roughly about $150,000 was a down payment of between $35,000 and $40,000. So at the end of the day, the total cash to close on this particular property was not 0% down. It was actually closer to 40%. And the reason being is because I was using my VA loan for the second time and went over the loan entitlement. Equity-wise in this particular property, the payoff right now is about $310,000. I did put $40,000 into it, bought it for $370,000, and I would say the total market value right now is probably between $400,000 and $425,000. So this particular property in terms of equity is probably the property that has the least amount of equity, but it has the best cash flow of the three properties so far. Now moving on to my last property. If you've been watching my videos for the past couple months, you're probably really familiar with this property. It's actually the house that we're filming this in right now, and it's my primary residence. I went ahead and purchased this one after having three properties bringing in a good amount of rental income. Normally I wouldn't make this large of a purchase, but I made this purchase with the intent to actually have a majority of my mortgage covered by two separate ways, and that's with renting out one room to a roommate and renting out another private Airbnb suite that actually has someone in there for the entire month of January. So current numbers on this property, I've only purchased it a couple months ago. I did purchase it for $640,000. I used my realtor commission as a rebate, so really I got it for closer to $620,000, and it appraised close to $700,000. Now, the reason it appraised for so much more than I paid for was I actually got it under contract at the beginning of 2020. Didn't get completed until the end of 2020, and the area that I bought it in is just appreciating like crazy. The current numbers as we speak, I've actually had it on Airbnb for about a month and a half. The entire month of January, it's actually leased out to a long-term tenant on Airbnb. I'm pulling in about $2,000 a month on Airbnb there, and I do have a roommate paying me about $1,350. So the total gross rent that I'm pulling from this unit or from this new house is about $3,350 a month. On a 15-year mortgage, I'm paying about $4,200 a month, which makes me roughly paying $850 for a brand new home that I custom built myself. Now this particular property, I did put 20% down, which obviously if you're buying it as an outright investment, putting 20% down and really only getting a couple $100 above your mortgage, if you were to buy this as a investment property, is not the best investment opportunity. However, this was kind of a splurge and kind of an exciting opportunity for me to purchase a home in an area that I always wanted to be in, and at the end of the day, really not pay much for it. The good thing about purchasing new construction is you're really not going to have to worry about any kind of repairs or maintenance, hopefully over the first 10 to 15 years. Now, there obviously are things that may come up, obviously upkeep of the house as well, and there's always going to be expenses that come with properties, but in this case, I'm really hoping that up front, there's really not going to be a ton of those. And to tie up this last property, I'm sitting at about $502,000 currently as my payoff loan value right now. If I were to sell this on the open market today, I'd probably get right around $700,000. So I'd be able to recoup all of my down payment as well as about $75,000 in equity. Now to tally up the equity that I have in these four properties that I've purchased since the summer of 2017, I'm sitting at about $575,000. And to total up the gross rent as well as the total mortgage payment, every single month that I have from these 4 properties. Obviously, they're going to be a little skewed with the purchase of this primary residence that basically is negative equity. I'm actually paying more on my mortgage than I'm getting in rent, but I'm pulling in about $13,500 in rent every single month, and my monthly mortgage payment for these 4 homes is about $9,500. Now, if you do get rid of my primary residence, which is truly not an actual investment property, but I am collecting rent from a roommate as well as the Airbnb suite, the other 3 properties that I have are pulling in about $9,500 a month in rent, and the total monthly mortgage is about $5,500. So from the 3 properties that I invested in, I'm pulling in about $4,000 above what I'm paying in my mortgage, and that money is being put aside for additional investments or any kind of repairs, maintenance, or any other issues with the properties. So obviously the title of this video is a breakdown of my $2 million portfolio. However, if you add all of these 4 properties that I have, it's only about $1.875 million in real estate. However, I do have another property under contract that's currently in probate. We're going to be closing on that shortly. So currently my portfolio is slightly under $2 million with the intent to get it over that in just the next coming months. In the middle of the year, I'm going to be selling 1 property and be purchasing likely something around the $1 million mark. And then at the end of the year, I'm likely to make an additional purchase, which will put my total portfolio likely at the beginning of 2022 in the $3 million to $3.5 million mark. If you're looking to do anything that I just mentioned, whether it be purchasing a property as an outright investment or purchasing a property with the intent to live in it, move out, and turn it into an investment, make sure to leave a comment down below. I'd love to connect with you, whether you're local here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or if you're anywhere else in the nation. I have agents across the country that can connect with you and help you do exactly what I just did. Make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help, and stay tuned for the next video. Yes!